Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar. Today we're going to be going over layouts in Maptitude. This whole webinar will be recorded, so you'll receive a link to the recording tomorrow via email. Should be around 12 or 12:30. If anyone has any questions at any point during this webinar, feel free to type them into the questions box in the GoToWebinar toolbar and just click on send. And I'll get to all the questions at the end of the webinar, probably in the last 10 or so minutes. In addition to that, I'll be displaying a few polls throughout the webinar. If you could take a minute to stop and answer these polls when they pop up, that would help us out a lot. Helps us to get a better idea of how we should be structuring webinars and where our users are at with the software. So I believe that is it. So I'll go ahead and get started now. So to get started here, I'm going to be creating a new demographic map. And I just really want to get a map. If the screen is blurry, you may need to expand the GoToWebinar window. It should be, looks fine on my end. I'm not sure why that would be happening. So you'll receive a whole link to record to the recording tomorrow. So if you're unable to see it or it looks blurry now, it should be fine in the recording. So I really just want to have a map open so that I can create a layout with it. So I'm just going to pick a map here. I'll be creating a map of, let's do zip code, economic, and we'll just do a household income map. And I don't want to do any of these bookmarks, so I'll do other location. And I'll be creating a map of the whole United States, so I'll hit OK. And there we go. So we have a whole household income map. So what's specifically useful for layouts for maps like this is that there are small areas where, there's a lot of zip codes very close together. So it's hard to see, if I were to export just this map alone, what those small areas incomes are, because they really just look like dark green blobs. So a layout can be pretty useful for this. And I'm going to post the first poll now. So I'm going to create my layout by choosing Tools, Reports, and then New Layout. And we'll see that it has a portrait orientation. So the first poll is going to ask what you'd like the orientation of your layout to be. So to change the orientation of the layout, we're going to right-click anywhere on the layout and choose Properties. From here, we can change things like our printer. We can also change the size of the page. I'm going to change mine to ArcE. And we can change it from portrait to landscape. So I'll select landscape and hit OK. So now we see that my layout is in landscape mode and it's a lot bigger. If I click on the ruler button up here, hide or show the rulers, we can actually see how big the paper is in inches. So this is an ArcE, so it should be 48 by 36, which it is. And this will help us, so if we're printing to plotter or anything like that, we can make sure we have a larger paper size. So to add a map to this layout, we're going to choose the Add or Place Map or Data View in the Layout button, which is down here. We're going to click and drag to create a box. And when we release our mouse, it's going to prompt us to choose a map. So I'll choose my zip household income map. I have a few options down here, which I can go over. Use actual point sizes. Make sure that the text as we're seeing on the screen, so let's say it's 12-point font or 14-point font, will be that same sized font once the map is printed. So in other words, if you have all of your labels set to 12-point font and you were to add it to a much larger layout, so maybe like a few feet by a few feet, when you go to print it or print it to a PDF, anything like that, that text is still going to be size 12 font. So the text will remain the same. Same with the point sizings. Print at a fixed scale will ensure that the map scale stays the same. So if you have your map set to a specific scale, then you can check this to make sure it keeps the same scale. And keep map's aspect ratio will ensure that the aspect ratio or the dimensions of the map stay the same. So in this case, I will only want to choose keep map's aspect ratio. Or actually, I think I only want use actual point sizes. So I'll check that and I'll hit OK. And there we go. So there's our national map. And you'll see we also have a legend down here. We're going to add the legend a bit later. So for now, I'm going to right click it and choose delete. And yes. I want this map to fill up roughly a quarter, maybe a little bit less of this layout. So I'll just drag it down to about there. I'm going to leave some space at the top for my title. So that should be good right there. So next I'm going to add a few more maps, and these are going to be smaller, zoomed in versions of different cities. So I'll add them here, here, and here. And the next poll is going to ask how many maps you would be including in your layout. So to add another map to this layout, I'm going to tab away from my layout back to the map. If you want to add different maps to your layout, so let's say you have a completely different map that you want to incorporate, you can choose File, Open Workspace, and then you can browse for a workspace and choose this Add Maps or Windows from the new workspace to your current workspace option. So this option will add all the maps and windows from whatever workspace you choose to this workspace as well. And it will allow you to essentially incorporate those other maps into your layout. I'm going to be working with this same map the whole time, so I'm not going to do this option, but that option is available. So I'm going to start out by zooming into New York. And I'll zoom in a bit more. That's probably pretty good. And I will once again return to my layout, choose place map or data view in a layout, click and drag to create that box. I'm going to pick the same map and hit OK. So we'll see that New York one is a little bit larger than my US map. So I kind of want to make sure these are the same size. So I'm going to drag one on top of the other one. And I'm just going to resize it until they are the same. And I can use the dotted lines at the top to do this. That should be a lot better. So now I'll drag it away. And they should be the same size now. I can also hold down Shift and click on both maps. So if I hold down Shift on my keyboard, click one map, and then click the other one, they should both get selected. And then I can use the alignment tools at the top to either center them or align them. So let's say I choose Arrange Left to Right. It's going to arrange those maps left to right. And I want to drag them together so that they're centered. That's a lot better. And there we go. So this is the legend I'm going to use for this one. So I want to make some changes to it, make it a bit larger. That way you can actually see it on this layout. So I'm going to right click on it and choose properties. And I'll choose fonts to change the sizings. I'll make the word legend a lot larger, the footnote a lot larger, and we'll make the subtitles and icons larger, or items as well larger. It looks a little blurry on here, but when it prints, it will be the correct sizing and correct resolution. And for now, I'm going to drag it to the side, but I'll probably be putting it down at the bottom right map where it is in most of the maps. So next up, I'm going to zoom to a different city. So we're going to do find. I'm going to choose city, and I'm just going to do Los Angeles. And I'm going to repeat the same steps I did last time. So place map or data view in a layout. If I want to make sure it's the exact same size as my other maps, I can actually draw it right on top of the New York map. And I can make sure that that sizing is exactly the same. And when I release it, it should be exactly the same size, which is nice. So now I'll click on pointer tool again, and I'll just drag it down here to the bottom right or bottom left. Again, I'm going to delete this legend. Just right click it and choose delete. Finally, I'll put one more map down here. Let's do Chicago. Should be good. And again, I just want to move this legend to the bottom right here. That way it's in a nice spot. You can see that this legend is actually behind my Chicago map. So I'm going to right click on my map Chicago and choose push to back, which is going to make sure that it's pushed behind this legend. We have other alignment tools here at the top, which are somewhat self-explanatory. We have buttons to push things to the front or back. We have things to align, or buttons to align items to the left edge of the paper, center them on the left, the right side of the paper, and align them to the right edge, as well as the top, middle, and bottom. We also have options that can help you center left to right, which I used earlier, and items that will help you arrange items from left to right or top to bottom. I think I've got everything lined up pretty well here. So the last step for me is to add a title. So I'm going to click on freehand text here. I'll click and drag to create a box. And I'll just begin typing. So we'll do household income USA. And again, I want to center this. So I'll use my pointer tool, click it, and then choose center left to right. Last step, to print your layout, you can choose File, Print, and it will use the options from the printer that you selected in the properties. So if you want to go back and change what printer it's printing to, anything like that, you can right click and choose Properties, and you'll see the option to change the printer here. You can also add drawings and other items to this layout. So if you want to add a logo, you can use the Insert Image button at the bottom left. Click and drag to show the location where you want to put the image, and it will prompt you to browse for that image. You can also use the freehand drawing tools on this map. So if I wanted to add small squares where the different cities are that I added insets for, I can create boxes around those cities. There we go. So now when I print this, those small boxes will appear on this map showing where the insets are, which is kind of a nice add-on.